Hey, as we know, life is full of surprises, both good and bad, and the day-to-day journey is full of unforeseen obstacles, and sometimes it's hard for us to see our way through. Beyond the normal mundane or where unscripted dreams live, join us for thought-provoking discussions and interviews to help us navigate through the fog and create our own path. We are the Unscripted Dreams podcast, operating outside the margins to motivate and inspire our audience. So, people, today is literally titled "Keep It in the Drafts." It's very simple. I don't know how to really honestly break that down more than what it is. But for some people that aren't familiar with terminology when it comes to operating on the internet, keeping it in the draft is simply just a statement regarding any certain statements you make on the internet or whatnot that may not be viewed as plausible or favorable in your favor, or maybe viewed as something's wrong or something. They just say keep it in the drafts because just to save face. So I think it's very important that we definitely do gracefully look over our drafts before we submit them to the actual airwaves, to the public, especially if your account is public. I think it's very important. That could save you a job, that could save you a friendship, that could save you money. It could cost you everything just to send out a simple message via text. And it could be as small as 3 characters, honestly. And that could, really get you in a world of hurt there. So before I go further into this, man, what you think about keeping in the drafts, Marcus?
So not sending people stuff. Wait, are we talking about social media? Or are we talking about text messages, emails?
They both apply, honestly.
Doesn't Apple have can't you delete text now?
Yeah, you
You
can
know?
delete text, I believe. You
Yeah, need
can.
that. Yeah. Yeah, they should have I'm about to go on a tangent, but they should have
Go ahead.
a thing. Actually, I think you should have a setting that you can turn on in your phone that says like regretful text or something, or gives you a time to where you got like 2 minutes and then it's going to say there's nothing you can do, like to save you from impulsivity, guardrails. And I actually think, now that I think about it, like, man, everybody done text something stupid before. I done text stupid stuff years ago. I'm pretty responsible now, but I think everybody, it's just a moment where it's like a lapse of judgment, and I think that not so, I mean, I guess, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but like really thinking before we send stuff out, understanding that when you send it, it's kind of forever too, and that someone can save it, clip it up, especially on social media. But I think just, yeah, having the overall awareness that something, once you put it out there, it's kind of out there forever. I think that's just my initial thoughts.
Yeah. So moving forward, man, let's talk about avoiding regrettable reactions. So basically, in a world where instant communication is the norm now, everyone has access to everybody some way, somehow. And it's oftentimes instant access compared to 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, heck, even 10 years ago. So basically keeping in the drafts, that motto, it encourages us to avoid some crazy emotional responses that we may later regret by pretty much taking a step back and reviewing our words before sharing, or we can at least prevent unnecessary conflicts or misunderstandings. So I feel like some people lack not necessarily just emotional intelligence, but they just lack the whole idea of like what certain things can do to you later down the road in your situations. And I do have a problem with people that honestly just don't care. And it's more so just like, how do you how do you get over that, or how do you navigate through that? And honestly, I guess the whole point is like, you could use your features as far as muting or blocking people. That's not really going to solve anything, honestly. But if you're the person that's actually the communicator and you're the one sending the message out, you know what I'm saying? I really wish that like, if you knew that you have like a mouthpiece on you, you would literally like have some kind of like system going on where it would like get in the middle of that. I used to have a system like that just because I'm very blunt at times. And I used to have to really like, I usually used to have a rule where I would have to read over what I was going to say 3 times over before I actually allow myself to actually send this or submit this information, whatever it may be. But now I don't feel like it's necessary for me to really share information as far as my personal life, just because I feel like it's more sacred and I understand the value of it now, later down the road versus when I was younger. It was just more so just like I didn't understand the impact long term. But as time went on, I understood the long term impact of like just me just shooting off the hip of just like random stuff, I would say, and not really realize like this stuff can incriminate me or this stuff can be used against me as far as losing my job or getting me in trouble in my personal life. Actually, before we move further into this, man, Marcus, have you ever actually been in a situation where pretty much by you not keeping certain things in the draft and you just said something that pretty much cost you, maybe not everything, but cost you something that you really like valued?
Not anything that's important to me right now, but I
Well,
think,
not right
I
now,
th
but has it
but
ever happened?
maybe once, maybe once, but I think that's just because I don't know. I think I keep it pretty like to myself. I think I was fortunate to get off of social media when I did, and not kind of continue to go down the rabbit hole of everything that kind of goes with that. So I think just thinking about that, and also if you're listening to this show on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Share this
Ding.
video with somebody. But no, just thinking about like, and that's what I want to get to maybe in the second half, is that like, yeah, I'm sure I've sent some stuff out to people that like it might have cost me something in the short term, but I've never like, I don't know if I've went like nuclear on anybody in a sense like that. Like, and that's just thinking about it in a sense in that like, I think there's been a level of moderation as far as understanding, like getting into arguments and stuff through text. That was like something that you do when you're like younger, or sometimes you just want to, or sometimes, I mean, I don't even think it's a young thing. I think people, man, it's old, 80-year-olds
Yeah,
doing that.
older
So,
people are seeking
yeah.
attention now. It's kind of getting out of
So,
hand.
yeah, but I think it's important to really understand that, like, what's the function? Like, what's the purpose of it? And that's why I think I haven't really, like, I haven't had any fallouts through the messages, like through actually messaging people or emailing people, because if something looks a little bit too crazy, it's either for me, I need to disengage and get out of it, or like sometimes I mean, Joe sends me stuff sometimes, and I be looking at this like, is he saying what I think he's saying? Because what he's saying don't sound right. But it's like, I know Joe, that's probably just how it sounds, but it's probably me taking it the wrong way, right? It just sounds crazy. Sometimes it be a little crazy, but we're good, but it's like, you can take, it can be something simple like that. And then you take something out of context and it's like, well, why'd you do that to begin with? Or you could just ask, like, did you mean this? Cause it reads like this, but is that what you meant? And things like that. And sometimes it's just a matter of picking up the phone and like really talking to somebody, because I see some crazy, like people send me some stuff. I be like, I don't think they mean it. And then when you talk to them or you get clarification, it's just the way it was presented. It's
Yep.
not that it means anything. And I think that's the thing, is that there's also almost a level of, I think we need to have maybe a level of forgiveness with some like stuff, just the tonality and things like that. But it's tricky. But Joe, I think you may have had more social media messaging fallouts
Yeah,
than
honestly,
I've had.
yeah, honestly, the only reason why I asked is because, man, I literally went on Twitter the other day, and I literally found a perfect scenario for this topic here as far as keeping it in the drafts. And I'm gonna share with you guys as far as what the tweet looks like.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much this lady tweeted, DMs are officially closed, right? And she has the emoji of a ring, a diamond ring, right? And that's her whole statement. But under that is a picture, as you can see, and it's her with her hand out, and it has her engagement ring, and it's in front of a house. And, I just think that's crazy because it's like, first and foremost, congratulations. But at the same time, how you gonna diss the person you with by just saying DMs are officially closed? Now, don't get me wrong, some people won't look at it that way, but I look at it as far as like, so your DMs are officially closed now because you're engaged. Whatever happened to you officially being exclusive with this person? You telling me that your DMs wasn't closed before then? Because I'm pretty sure they should have been before he committed to giving you a ring or whoever, right? It's just stuff like that where I feel like it could keep it in the drafts. And if you look at the tweet comments, 90% of the people agree or are saying or questioning the same thing I'm saying. Like, who does this? Like, why are you doing this? So, oh, now the DMs are closed. And then you got other people that are instigators and say, well, shoot, if the DMs are officially closed now, I bet you they're going to blow back open when she's officially married. It's like, I was like, you guys are too much. Like what they say,
Wow.
man. You got to always look at the thread, and the thread don't lie in most cases.
Pretty entertaining, man. It's pretty entertaining. Not from the sense that it's just, that's a perfect example of why. I hope, hey, red flags. That might have been, I don't know what your system is. I don't know what your system is, listener, but I run a, three red flag system. And yes, it is still possible to get a red flag even after you've been in a relationship. There are certain actions that they will trigger a red flag, man. It still happens. So just because you're together don't mean you're safe. You safe. So, but that's interesting. So one of the things I was just thinking about is like social media, right? And that how social media is native to a good deal of the population. When I say it's native, it means that it's always been around for as long as that person has been alive. So people have like the next generation, like kids, they've grown up. They don't know a world without social media. So if you were born before 2000, like just because I know 5-year-olds are on social media and things like that, pretty
Oh,
much saying
yes, they are.
well, I would say just if you're born before 2000, you lived a life that really wasn't influenced by social media. I think or a portion of your life. Like,
That's fair.
you know what life is like without it. So, but because it's normal to so many people and it's always been there, you have to think about some of the things that we do that you don't think about. It's like you hear people say, well, it's always been that way, or that's what we always do, because you don't know anything else. So for a percentage of the population, it's normal to just to tweet or post whatever you're doing. Like it's normal. It's normal to put your life out there like that. But for a different percent of the population, it's not. Like that's not a normal thing. It was something we over time grew accustomed to. But I think that's something to consider when you think about the trend of people. If you grow up and it's always normal to kind of give up all your information for free and put it out there, it's just normal. And that's the thing, is that it's normal to not have impulse control. Like that's a normal thing. So, but Joe, what do you think about that? And the whole concept of people are doing it because it's normalized.
I think it's one of those things where you're in the moment. I know we've spoken about this a few times on our podcast about like what makes sense today won't necessarily make sense down the road. And I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing that's very important is when you're in the midst or in the moment of certain things, it's important for you to really like have what I call the power of reflection, like being able to actually like see past experiences as far as like, oh, this is just a trend, and just really realizing and understanding what it is, basically just taking yourself out of the equation if you can, and basically have some kind of foresight where you're just like, okay, how's this going to impact me in the future? Is this something where we're going to run with it? So as we can see, we're on a technology run. So we know like with certain things with technology, it's gonna get better and better and better and better, right? So with that in mind, you want to kind of like line yourself up to kind of like keep up with the times per se versus not. I mean, it's really subjective. What I'm trying to say is basically like you got to have some kind of like power of reflection because it encourages us to basically like reflect and not make impulsive decisions. And when you're in the moment, and you're going through trends, it's really easy to make an impulsive decision because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, if half of my friends are doing it and my whole family's doing it, why am I not doing it? And sometimes when you benefit from something short term, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good down the road. But yeah, man, what I'm trying to say in so many words, as far as like the power of reflection, man, basically by dealing with the PPP loans, like that's a perfect example. Like that was an in the moment thing, right? Where people just pretty much took advantage of it and jumped on the bandwagon without actually like reading the fine print, or actually they read the fine print, but they just thought it wouldn't come back on them. And sure enough, year, 2 years later, they pretty much get prosecuted for the crimes that they committed, whether they had to do jail time or whatever may have happened. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes you have to really take a step back and realize like, hey, how's this going to impact me going forward? Is this really worth it? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something on a criminal thing. You know what I'm saying? It could be something as simple as like you looking into stock, right? So you're like, okay, I want to invest into Nike. Okay, cool. But you might invest into Nike today, right? But 5 years from now, Nike might be worth $100 less, maybe $50 less a share. So it's not really like a good advance for the time being. So it's just more so just like, man, you just kind of got to do your research and hope for the best, honestly, because you can't necessarily predict the future. But the whole point of what I'm trying to make is make sure if you're going to make a move or you're going to make a commitment on something, make sure that you've definitely saw all options through before actually committing to something, especially if it's words, because you can't take them back once you deliver.
Sure. So, Joe, let me ask you a question and I'll close out. When you post on social media, what is your reason for posting?
My reasoning has changed
Yes. Okay.
over the years. My reasoning now is more so talking about empowering others. Occasionally, I might say something random as far as like it might be something funny, something entertaining. But most of the stuff that I post is literally just entertainment, like music. I might share like music I like. So I'll just repost like what I'm listening to. So yeah, those are my reasonings as in regard to why I post, man. I post strictly for like entertainment and also just to share like what I got going on myself. So a lot of it is usually just entertainment. It's never really something that's more so personal. I just feel like there's too much of that on the airwaves now. So I try to stay away from talking about common issues that I have going on in my life because I feel like that's not a place for it. If I really want to address something, I'll handle it myself, not go somewhere else where I'm getting untrusted advice.
So, I think I'm happy with your answer, Joe, because it fell into. So, I that I've recognized at least 4 reasons, 3 core reasons why people share on social media. The main one that people don't acknowledge is therapy. That's why they post, because you need attention, you need some validation. You just need somebody to talk to, even though it's strangers that you don't know and don't care about. But yeah, therapy is one. I actually think honestly, I think that's the main reason why. Second, I had entertainment, which Joe, you fell into that bucket, and third one is business, networking. That's 99.5% of the reasons that I post, and education too, which is Joe, another bucket for you, Joe. Those are really the two that you fall into is probably entertainment and education. But not saying that anything is wrong or preferred with any of those. I think it's important to acknowledge, for all of us to acknowledge the reasons why we actually feel the need to share our information and post the things that we're doing out there for anybody to see. And I think that if we knew that, maybe we would think of it a little bit more before, but also just understanding on a more productive level, understanding why we're kind of using some of these applications as well, just know to understand the function of it too. You got anything else?
Yeah, man. I just want to go over some few things that people should take in consideration and then we can
Okay.
officially close out. So I think some of the key takeaways here, man, is
Mhm.
discretion. Discretion, basically just practice it by refraining from sharing sensitive information or confidential information with unauthorized individuals, whoever that may be. There might be people lurking, scammers, you name it, the list goes on. You never know who's looking at your information or who has exposure to it. So do with that information what you may, because I've known people countless times that went on vacation, they come home, their house been ransacked, all because they wanted to post that they were on vacation. So you could be a victim just like that too. So that's something to take in consideration. Responsibility, that's self-explanatory, man. Just understand like the huge burden of responsibility that you have that's entrusted to you in keeping your life and your well-being safe. And it's not even just about from a physical standpoint or how you live, but just your responsibility as far as you can taint other people's heads too. Like, there might be kids looking at what you're saying and they're being exposed to the first time of like some of the stuff that you're saying on there. Maybe somebody looked up to you and then all of a sudden you shared a little bit too much information on the internet and then that just changed their whole perspective. So you always wonder why people treated you or looked at you a different type of way. It's because you're out there acting a nut. You're putting stuff out there that you probably shouldn't, and people are changing their viewpoints on you. So that's an easier way for people not to like you, honestly. Think about foresight. Like I said before, foresight, anticipate like the potential influence or implications of sharing certain information. Evaluate it always because you never know if it's really like necessary or appropriate to disclose. Like, I'm not going to tell people like, oh man, I got to go to the bathroom. Like, why? Like, why do you need to know that? Or, oh, I'm about to eat some dinner right now. Like, that's cool, but okay. Like, be careful with what you're saying because you just never know, man. So just think about it and consider like the short term impacts, especially the long term consequences as well for you and other people that are watching or viewing your stuff. So that all leads to the last point or the takeaway, which is accountability. So just own up to what you're saying, take responsibility for all your actions. And yeah, so just understand the value of words. Words have meaning, words have power. So that's the reason why I do education as far as empowering people, just as much as I send stuff out there that entertain people. So once you know that power and you have that knowledge, it can make all the difference in the world as far as shaping everything as a whole. Because it's not just you, there's other people out there that you're kind of raising or you're influencing because they're looking at your stuff every day. So just keep that in mind. But hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like our videos. And most importantly, please feel free to share our information. We're available on multiple platforms, but especially check us out on YouTube. So if you're looking at this on YouTube, hit the like button. If you are listening to Spotify, Apple, or any streaming service, you know, share that information, repost. So thank you. Take care. Be safe.
Yep, so